What's up, everyone? Welcome back once again to the Football Goons podcast. As we record right now tonight, or if you're watching live on YouTube, we're 3 days away from the start of the 2018 NFL league year. And while other podcasts and folks out there are scrambling to get caught up, if you've been following with us, you know that we have not taken any days off. We're ready to roll right into this next league year. You know, we've done all of our recapping on last year, and we're ready to get full steam ahead here. So we're here this week to get you all primed for the beginning of free agency, specifically as we preview some of the action that is sure to take place this week. Guys, it's been a crazy, last week already, and we're not even in the legal tampering period. So I'm sure it's going to come in, kind of fast and furious here once things kick off. Let's talk about something, totally unrelated to that, though, first, as we like to normally do. As you know, today kicked off the beginning of daylight savings time. And I got to know, number one, are you guys dragging as bad as I am today? And number two, which one of these changes do you prefer? Do you like the longer days, or do you like the earlier sunrise?
No, longer days, definitely.
A lot.
I mean, I'm not sure how that's a choice.
I like the longer days too, but I really enjoy getting that one extra hour of sleep.
I didn't take it as which daylight savings night do you prefer?
No. I get
just in general.
I know
the whole
what I'm
season,
saying.
half the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's like for me this day. Yeah, okay, hour less sleep. Whatever. It's a Saturday night into Sunday, so I still got to sleep till 9/8, whatever it was. I don't know, /10. I don't really know how the math works. But
you are a math teacher.
This world is falling apart if you don't know.
I'm not a math teacher on Sundays. But I just, for me, what today signifies is like we're done with gray skies and cold and wind. Like I practice baseball with my son.
You don't live in Pittsburgh? We're not done with that.
Or upstate New York. Yeah, we're not done with that till like June.
All right. Everybody lives in the coldest area in the world. I get it. No, like
I live in the grayest area in the world.
Not necessary, but you know what's coming now.
Right.
Yes.
The other way, it's like, oh, it's dark at 4:30, and it's going to be dark at 4:30 for the next 4 months.
Awful.
Now you're getting ready for that. Hey, it's 8:30 at night. We're still hanging out on the porch because it's a little bit light out. Like it's on the horizon. Is my point. It wasn't today, but it's on the horizon.
I actually just said that on my way home with my wife today. That I looked outside and it was like 7 o'clock, and I could still see the sun. I was like, "It's coming. It is coming."
Yeah.
And just that little glimmer of hope gets you through this part of the year, because this part of the year is horrible.
Yeah, like, March is awful.
There's nothing like other than March Madness. If your team's not good, then March is just dreadful because there's nothing going on. It's still cold. There's a chance you'll get a blizzard at any point, but at least you see sunshine. You're like, it's coming now.
Right.
Yeah, I don't get it, because like it's not like 1840 anymore.
Quit it.
So
yeah, knock it off.
Like we don't need to adjust to the farming schedule. So let's get past that. Let's enjoy like regular life. Some people are just getting their day started at like 6 o'clock at night. So let's enjoy more sunshine.
Yeah, right.
Let's have these longer days. I don't care what it's like outside before I wake up. I don't want to wake up to the sun necessarily. If it's just coming up, fine. I'm okay with that. So let's be more like Florida and get past it. I think they actually passed a law. They're going to get rid of it.
They are, and I think parts of Arizona, I know Phoenix at least, they don't do it anymore.
Oh, yeah, all of Arizona doesn't do it anymore. And I saw that about Florida also, which is odd because like you got two southern states where the climate is like more conducive to farming year round, not like upstate New York where like we don't need daylight savings time in the wintertime. We're not farming in the wintertime. There's snow on the ground for 7 months.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's get into this free agency talk. We're going to start off. We're going to get right into it here with some of the big chips. And now, you're probably going to be listening and wonder, like, why are you talking about, Andrew Norwell and, players like that? Well,
spoiler alert.
Listen,
I'm going to talk about Andrew Norwell in a couple of minutes here.
We may get to that, is what I'm saying. But what I'm talking about here we highlighted 6 players who we think are relevant, not only like because of their name value, but also because they have a little bit of a fantasy appeal. So we're trying to kind of, cater to both sides of the audience here. And we'll get into some other players in the second half of this, but not everybody right out of the gate wants to hear about centers and guards and, defensive tackles and nose guards. So we're going to start off with the bigger names. Number one on that list, as he has been for quite some time right now, is Kirk Cousins. So this is how I'm going to phrase up these first couple ones. Where do you believe that Kirk Cousins is going to end up, and where do you believe would be the best fit for him?
This is one of the ones for me that was the same team. And, I've been on a roller coaster with this guy the last few weeks, along with basically the rest of the NFL. I was in Denver for a while, and then I was with the Jets, and I guess I won't be overly surprised if he's with either one. I have now landed with the majority of rumors out there. I think he's going to end up as a Minnesota Viking. I think it's the best place to win right now as rosters stand. Things can obviously change, but you're looking at a team that just went to the NFC Championship game, and yeah, they got destroyed, but they ran into an emotional roller coaster there on the other side, a positive roller coaster. And you did it with Case Keenum and without Dalvin Cook, who might be your best offensive player.
Yeah.
So if you can add Cook back and upgrade from Case to Kirk, that's a great fit. The Jets, tons of money. Well, Minnesota's $47 million under, and they're likely to get another 6.7 because Sharif Floyd probably has to retire. Unfortunately, he's probably not coming back. So that's money right in their pocket there. It's still a lot less than the Jets, but at some point, the Jets aren't going to offer him $60 million a year. So
they might.
So I guess they could, and God bless him. You better take it. But I think at this point, for me, what it boils down to, the only way he goes Jets to me is if he and I kind of am with him here. If he looks around and says, "Hey, I get an aging, still great, but an aging Tom Brady and the rest of the AFC, or I can run into what's really turning into a buzzsaw of a conference and return there with Aaron Rodgers coming back." I mean, while Minnesota's a better team than the Jets on paper right now, I do think the Jets have a clearer path to the playoffs than the Vikings.
I think also that the thing that would push him over is if he sees Allen Robinson go to the Jets. But
but a lot of these we're going to talk about are kind of tied.
Right, I agree. But I agree with you. I said Minnesota for both, where I think he'll go, and I think it's the best fit. They have pretty good depth all over the field. They have Dalvin, Diggs, Thielen, Rudolph, plus a defense that's really tough. And basically all they need is a full-time guy with little question marks. Not Case, not Teddy, not these guys that who knows what you're going to get from game to game. If Kirk's on a good team with these guys, he's going to perform every week, and he's going to be my quarterback in every fantasy league. He should go to Minnesota for sure.
See, I'm not saying this as a Jets fan, as I'm literally wearing the hat and the shoes and the sweatshirt
and the jersey behind you and the poster behind you.
And no, I don't know that necessarily. On paper, Minnesota is the best place for him to go because it looks like they have a better team than the Jets. But Miles, I love what you said.
They do.
They have they have a better team, yes. But do they have Miles said, do they have an easier road? Are you telling me that that team, hands down, is going to beat Aaron Rodgers for the division?
Absolutely not. I said they're not.
Okay. Okay. So that now, even if you think that, are they hands down better than any of the teams in the NFC South, any of the Eagles in the East? There's too many other obstacles for them to overcome. So yes, they are the better team, the best team that he can sign with probably, but it does not give him the easiest path. I think he has a chance here. And honestly, I've gone back and forth with this 100 times. Who do I want to be the Jets quarterback? I think the best place for Kirk Cousins actually is New York. They can pay other than Cleveland. They can pay him the most money.
Actually, real quick, it is them now because Cleveland's moves this week. The Jets have the most cap room now.
Okay, so the Jets can pay him the most money. Right. Okay, great. The Jets can pay him the most money of any team, and if you turn that franchise around, you are the king of the NFL. I hate to say it, but you are in New York, and you are the face of a franchise in New York. And if you come in there and go 11-5 and unseed the Patriots, congratulations, Kirk Cousins. Not only do you make the most money of any player, but you're going to get the most endorsement deals. Right. You're going to get all the fame, all the fortune. So if what he's really interested in is, getting paid, then absolutely New York is the place to do it. And I hate to, I know that me saying that it sounds like a Homer Jets fan. Honestly, I don't know if I want him or if I want Baker Mayfield or if I want, Josh Allen at this point. Like I've been on the Kirk Cousins train all offseason, but like, I don't know which one of them is going to wind up being the best for my team, but the best for Kirk Cousins, I think, is the Jets.
Be honest. How excited would you be for Kirk Cousins to scream, "You like that?" and Tom Brady's face?
No, dude. Like, I would make billboards in Manhattan. It would be the greatest thing in the world.
My house.
Yes. Taking out small loans to put up billboards in Manhattan.
Worth it.
I will say, and I think Deal would agree with me. I do have the Jets as a very close second.
Yep, me too.
In both where I think he'll go and where it's the best fit.
Agree.
And I think your point is really well made. I mean, the NFC is so tough that all 6 of the playoff teams, I'm not locking them into the playoffs next year, including the Super Bowl champs. Like you can't do it. The conference is too good right now.
Yeah, for me on this one, I got the Vikings, and I was like Mr. Cousins to the Jets, basically up until like yesterday. As I was reading more and more into this, like apparently the market is just not forming for what Kirk Cousins and his agent believed, was going to be available to him out there. So if it's just a money thing, it's definitely going to be the Jets, because at this point they're going to be the most willing, the most able to throw the money at him. Now, the Vikings still have apparently a pretty big offer out to him, but it's a shorter term deal, so he's not going to necessarily finish his career on that deal, which is what I heard what he really wants to do. He wants to be secure and set for the rest of his career. So I just think that ultimately it's going to come down to he's going to sit back and look at this and say, if I go and play for the Vikings, based on everything that you guys touched on, we're a team among 6 other teams in the NFL who you could make a case for winning a Super Bowl this year. And I think that ultimately that's going to win out for him over the money. I think we're all going to be surprised because we feel like to this point it's been all about the money for him, when in reality, I think a lot of it is he just wants to feel loved like anybody else.
But I want to touch on what you said real quick. Like, if it's the years over the money, then it's the Jets too. I mean, if Minnesota is going to lowball him in terms of, hey, we got 4 years for you, and the Jets are going to give you 6 or 7. Listen, the last 2 years, franchise tag money is not an issue for Kirk. He's got some money.
He's
what he make, like $49 million in the last 2 years, which he doesn't strike me as the type of guy that blew that all at clubs already.
No, and that's why I mean,
yeah, right. I'm agreeing with you. Like the money is going to be there as far as set yourself up for life either way. But what we do know about Kirk is somebody commit to me.
Yeah.
So if the Vikings are saying, hey, I got 4 years, the Jets are saying I got 7. If the money's even close to the same, really the Vikings could offer him a little more per year. I want 7 years, man. I want to be your guy. Somebody freaking believe in me.
Yeah, like a lot of the reports that I'm seeing is like 3 for 91, which is insane. It's insane for that the Vikings could offer him that, and that's a realistic offer. You know what I mean? But if the Jets come up with 5 for 150, like you know what I mean, or even like 5 for 145,
right?
I think he would side with like, all right, the Jets clearly want me to be the face of their franchise for the next 5 years plus. The Vikings are saying like, this is what we can do right now, and then we'll readdress the situation. Well, if that was the case, he would just stay in Washington.
Yeah, he's tired of reassessing his situation.
Exactly. He has reassessed his own situation enough times now.
Right.
And not to kind of linger. Sorry, not to linger on this too much longer, but like it would be smart of the Jets too, because they're going to be giving a similar offer, even if they did go 5 for 150, because all accounts is that they would make a massive signing bonus up front. Yeah, so that the back end of that contract would essentially be the same. If you're talking, we're going to give him a $60 million signing bonus, then the entire back end of that contract is still the same value.
19-20 a year,
over more years. So
I think if I'm him, I agree. I'm going to a place that believes in me. I think they can drop it down $5 to $8 million a year. But if they're extending it out to like 7-8 years, I'm going there.
Right.
All right, let's jump.
One interesting point I want to bring up, and I don't know if you guys saw this, but I did see a rumor today that he's going nowhere in free agency. Like he's not going to visit any teams.
Yeah,
apparently he's already heard everything he needs to hear.
Well,
so,
I guess the due date is not there yet, but everybody was supposed to throw a video presentation together and send it to him. So,
yeah, so I like that. That's even kind of crazier to really think about. But
this is like some college recruiting stuff here, like Jim Harbaugh going to sleep on his couch, like crazy. All right, let's talk about Allen Robinson, wide receiver, formerly of the Jaguars. They decided they were not going to tag him, so he will be a free agent. We're going to see what kind of market teams want to drum up to try and sign Robinson. So, same question. Where do you believe he goes, and where do you believe would be the best fit?
I have 3 for this one, and they all have contingencies. So bear with me here. And this is all for the where do I believe he goes. I have one answer for the best fit, but for me, if Allen Robinson wants to be one of those guys that, we wake up Wednesday morning or 4:00 on Wednesday, and the NFL.com ticker goes, Allen Robinson signs. If he wants to be that guy right away, I think he's going to be a Jet or a 49er. And it all hinges on where Kirk Cousins goes. If Cousins goes Jets, so does A-Rob. If Cousins goes Vikings, I think he's a great fit in San Francisco as that main receiver in Kyle Shanahan's offense. However, if he doesn't care to be that guy and he wants to be a little bit patient and just keep an ear towards what's going on with Andrew Luck, I think the best fit for Allen Robinson is to play across from T.Y. Hilton with Andrew Luck and make the fantasy gods cry tears of joy. Because Andrew Luck will throw for 6,000 yards. I mean, so if he's patient, I think the best situation is Indy.
Yeah, I said the same thing.
It's one of the other two.
It's so funny. Yeah, go ahead, Dale.
I said the same thing. I think that it does depend on where Kirk goes, because if he can pair up with him, then why not?
That's nasty.
But I think if Andy's healthy, that's a better situation.
That's nastier.
So I think he's still a huge difference maker. Dude's only 24 years old. You're forgetting that. He's coming back from an injury that everybody comes back from now. And they can go back to the heyday of when they had Reggie and Marvin with Peyton throwing to him. They can be that team again. And I think Marlon Mack is a good enough running back. He's not Edgerrin James, but he's a good enough running back that this is going to be a scary team if Andy's healthy and they have T.Y. and Allen Robinson.
So I actually, I have the exact same answer, but I kind of flipped the script on it. I think he will wind up in Indianapolis, and that's great for him. But I think the better fit for him as a player, in terms of being a number one, is San Francisco. So like I don't even think the Jets are in his top 5 right now, unless something changes with Cousins and who knows if these guys talk on the side or whatnot. But I think he's the type of guy that's gonna wind up in. He may take a little bit less money to go play in Indianapolis, but yes, that's great for Indianapolis, but playing second fiddle to T.Y. Hilton is not something that Allen Robinson really wants to do, I don't think. I think he wants to be the number one. I think that's
that guy.
I see. To me, he does.
Really?
Not like a cockiness, but like he was just in Jacksonville and had to like put up with arguments of like, oh, is Allen Hurns better than he is? Is Marquise Lee better than he is? Who's more valuable to sign, Marquise Lee or Allen Robinson? And he's like, yo, I made a Pro Bowl. Like you kidding me? Like I don't think he wants to do it as like a boastfulness, like an Odell, if you will. But like I absolutely think he wants to be some team's number one, stud wide receiver, and shine for that team. And that's why I think the better fit for him is San Francisco. He can walk into that and just form like an instant bond with Jimmy G, and just they are the new Montana to Rice. You know what I mean?
Stop.
But not literally Montana to Rice, but you know what I mean.
I can't.
That was a pretty big jump.
I'll respond to that. I'll respond to that 2 ways though. Number one, I almost felt like the Allen Robinson Jacksonville, is he the number one thing? To me and everybody smart, and probably him, was kind of just funny.
Yes, absolutely. But the fact that people talk about that is ridiculous.
Okay, but so I'll say if he goes,
it's hard to be offended by that craziness.
Right. If he goes to Indy, there's one thing to say you're the number 2, but if you're the number 2 behind T.Y. Hilton, who just led the league in receiving last year, that's not bad. But on top of that, all due respect to the Ghost, if he goes to Indy, he's the number 1. And T.Y. Hilton's running those 9 routes and clearing out the middle. I mean, he's absolutely getting more catches than T.Y. Hilton. Yards, maybe not, but Deal crushed that. That's Marvin and Reggie all over again. Yep. Where Marvin Harrison, T.Y. Hilton clear things out, and Allen Robinson, Reggie Wayne do some underneath things, still get their deep ball. I mean, I guess for me, I agree that, yeah, he's obviously clearly the number 1 in San Francisco, which there's a point of pride to that. But if you go to Indy, you're not seeing doubles. You're not seeing bracket coverage. You can't, or T.Y. Hilton's going to get 2,000 yards. Like it's a number 1 in a different sense where you're going to get number 1 numbers without having to work quite as hard for it, which is fun.
Yeah, my prediction is, as usual, going to be something that we didn't talk about because I like to go a little bit nutty here, but I think he's going to end up with the Bears. The Bears have a decent amount of money to throw around, and from everything that I've read and heard, they're willing to just back up the truck for Allen Robinson. They understand that if they want to know, if Trubisky is the truth, and if they could really build around him and really get something going on offense, they want a premier target on the outside, and they're going to back up the truck and try and pay him. So I think at the end of the day, they're going to make an offer that's just too rich to refuse. I think his best fit is with the 49ers. If he took less money or competitive money to that, to go play with the 49ers, to play with a quarterback who I think has a little more upside, a coaching staff who I think I would prefer personally, and a situation that quite honestly looks a little bit brighter as far as like draft capital and cap space goes, I would play for the 49ers. But I think the Bears are kind of forgotten in this because, he's target A number 1 with a bullet.
I get why they want him, but and your explanation is awesome. If they want to find out that if Trubisky's the guy, great. If you're Allen Robinson, why would you want to risk the next 3 to 4 years of your career? Do you really want to be part of the is Mitchell Trubisky the truth experiment when the options are Jimmy Garoppolo or Andrew Luck or Kirk Cousins, or hell, even going to the Jets and just reuniting with Christian Hackenberg? That worked pretty well in college. So, like, if I'm going to risk it with a guy who I don't think's very good, I'd rather go back to Hackenberg than Trubisky.
Yeah, I think that there's a perception that Trubisky isn't he's not going to bust out. I think there's a perception around the league, which I don't completely understand. He really hasn't done anything either way. But from everything that you hear, people are super high on him. All of a sudden, we're not laughing about moving up that spot last year to go and get him.
I'm laughing.
People are actually praising the Bears in league circles. So, I think that ultimately money will talk. I think that's what it's going to come down to.
Honestly, and I'm not to delay this, but he just got out of let's see if my quarterback is the guy or not. And they still don't even have a freaking answer. Yeah, they just gave him a raise because they made the AFC Championship game, but I'm not the only one that thinks that had very little to do with Blake Bortles. You know what I mean?
I want a sure thing if I'm A-Rob.
Exactly.
And you say they're going to back up the truck, but there is no reason in the world he's not San Francisco and Indianapolis's number 1 target in free agency, and they both have money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously so do the Jets.
And listen, he might be a Bear, and I'm ranting for no reason at all, but I don't see where that makes sense for him.
Yeah, and again, I think his best fit is the 49ers. I'm just going based off of everything that you hear, everything that you read, and you can't trust that completely, but it just sounds like they're going to make it almost impossible for him to turn it down. So, all right, let's talk about Carlos Hyde, running back formerly of the San Francisco 49ers. Where do you believe he ends up, and what do you think is actually the best fit?
This one is the only one I have where I think the answer is both teams. I love him to Seattle right now. I think they really need to get back to that running game, that pounding. They're on a complete rebuild essentially, and the only way they're going to keep Russell Wilson out of a hospital bed at this point is to give him something in the backfield. Now, I'm not saying that Carlos Hyde is the second coming of Marshawn Lynch, but he's the only one of this group. He's the only one of this of the free agent group that I think is actually worth looking at and diving into, and not going the free agency route, especially given where Seattle's going to draft. Like, you're not going to get Chubb and Geis more than likely, and then you're going to have to wait until later on to get a running back if you're going to go to the second group, because you're not going to take one where they pick if the top two are gone. So I actually like Carlos Hyde to the Seahawks here. I think he's a good fit, and I think it gives the Seahawks the ability to kind of give Russell Wilson something in the way of a running game.
I disagree with you. I do have this is an answer where both teams are the same, but I'm going to disagree on the team. Deal, you mentioned something when we were talking about Allen Robinson with the wait and see, and you mentioned how you kind of like the Colts running back situation. I think I'd like it even more if they bring in Carlos Hyde.
Me too.
And you can go ahead and pair him up, and really go back to kind of what the plan I think was on paper last year in a little bit more of a two-back system. I think he fits what the Colts traditionally like to do as far as getting the running back involved in multiple assets of the offense. I just think it's a good fit all around. He's a guy who he's got some mileage on him, but not enough where like he can't still be your technical number one. So I just think it's a good fit, a good situation. You go to a team with, if Luck is healthy, the passing game is already going to be clicking, that. So you'll be able to run the ball a little better. And then they could kind of focus on the offensive line through the draft and improve there. So it's a really enticing area for me. And I think that because of the volume of running backs that we're looking at, in free agency and through the draft, it's not going to take a ton to get it done.
Not to interrupt this specific conversation, but we're talking a lot about the Colts and how long do you guys realistically think guys are going to have to wait and see for Andrew Luck before it becomes an issue? You know what I mean? Like that's the only part that scares me about the Colts getting anyone here. Well, you say they're not, but
listen,
we don't know that he's going to be. I truly believe it too.
No. You're jumping ahead of what I'm saying. I truly believe that if the Colts are going to pursue players, they're going to do it knowing that, listen, we're not out in front of the media on Wednesday afternoon telling them that Luck is ramped up his throwing. He's doing more here and there. But if a free agent comes in and they want that assurance, you could be sure you're going to get transparency there. You're going to find out from Ballard.
If it's a guy they really want.
Right. He's already ramped up his throwing. He's going to be ready to go by training camp, no doubt. So, you're going to get that level of transparency.
And I agree that he's going to be back in full swing. But I guess my point is, like, do you guys think at all that because every time we talk about somebody going to the Colts, it's a wait and see approach, not like a jump out and go get him approach. And like, how long is the wait and see when other teams are throwing dollar signs at you?
Well, I think that's and kind of tying this all together. That's less of an issue for Hyde than it is for Robinson. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, definitely,
Hyde,
definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, he's not nearly the player Robinson is, or the positional premium. You know what I mean? Like, you've got a surefire number one wide receiver, or you've got a really solid running back, of which there's 20 of now. There's not 20 A-Robs. But I while I'm talking, I totally agree with South. I have Colts. Though I do think he might be a wait and see situation, not for Luck, but I would be a little bit surprised, unless somebody throws a lot of money at him, if Carlos Hyde signs before the draft.
Yeah, see what's behind him.
I think something we learned last year with Latavius Murray in the Vikings and Adrian Peterson with the Saints, and then their teams drafted Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara, and you didn't have nearly the role you thought you were going to have when you signed on. Now, obviously, Latavius they both ended up doing okay. Peterson for a different team, and Latavius because Cook goes down. But if I'm Carlos Hyde, I'm telling my agent, hey, contact the Colts. I'm super interested. They have $72 million. They're not spending it all, so save me $5. You know, and if you miss out on Saquon Barkley, I'm signing on the dotted line, which I expect them to, but you don't know. Maybe the Colts get Barkley. But if you don't, and you're the Colts, now I know I've got Carlos Hyde in my back pocket, and I can do what personally I think is right for the Colts and trade back. Because I know I've got a starting caliber running back who's really, really good. He's an underrated player. Rock, I like the Seattle thing, but I saw a tweet the other day that I thought was perfect. Somebody was tweeting about Seattle running back. The issue is not your running back. Your line is atrocious and your scheme is even worse.
Yeah, but they can. You know what?
It's better than Mike Davis, and it's better than C.J. Prosise and Thomas Rawls. I get it.
No, yeah, but I guess the way I look at it is like I fully expect them to kind of build the line through the draft, as opposed to signing free agents on the line and then drafting a back. You know what I mean? So that's the way I look at most things. You know what I mean? Like very rarely are you building a line through free agency. You may grab a piece through free agency, but you're not building your line that way. So I expect them to get the back and build the line around him.
I guess my response to that, if I'm Seattle's GM, is I look at their offense and Carolina's offense and Buffalo's offense and these guys with the running quarterback. I could take a guy in the 6th round. If I build my line, I don't need Carlos Hyde, is my point. Russell Wilson, the dual threat there, makes a 6th round running back excellent. I could take Cameron Petway in the 6th, 7th round and be fine. So I feel like the money could be better spent when you have that running quarterback. If I'm the Colts with Jacoby Brissett, I don't need Carlos Hyde either.
Right. You need a lot more than that.
I need to take Saquon Barkley terribly.
I disagree with you somewhat, Miles, and I agreed with Rocco. I said the Seahawks. If he comes to Colts, I'm hype about it though. But I disagree that you can get a 6th round running back because they've been trying that with C.J. Prosise and fill in the blank with all these other guys. It's not doing it for them.
I'm saying they've got to fix the scheme in the line first.
Right, but the line wasn't that good when Marshawn Lynch was there. Again,
nobody's Marshawn Lynch.
I agree. I was going to back that up with,
okay.
I don't think Carlos Hyde is him, but the line's been an issue forever there. I think they have to fix that. They know that, but I don't think that Carlos Hyde deters them from fixing that. They still have $30-something million to spend. So again, spend $5 million on Carlos Hyde and take some pressure off Russ and get back to that ground and pound where Russ doesn't have to be. He's going to be 99% of your offense, either rushing or throwing. Take some pressure off the dude. So yeah, I love him to go to Seattle, but I love more him to go to Indianapolis.
I think too. So, and this is kind of like weird to say, but sometimes when we're looking at who guys are going to draft free agents, I think you really have to look at where they draft and what they have. My whole point with Seattle was there's no way they're getting either of the top 2 backs. They need every pick they have because they're in full rebuild mode now. Your defense is gone. Already knew you had to build an offensive line. So, they are in full rebuild mode. They can't get one of the top 2 backs in the draft. They need every draft pick they can get. They need to address the running back position in free agency. That's the way I kind of look at it. If Seattle picked, 5, maybe I wouldn't pick Carlos Hyde to them. You know what I mean? Then maybe one of the top 2 backs are in play for them, and then things change all over the place, But I think that's just when we're looking at free agency, looking at where a team drafts is just as important.
All right, let's see. Let's skip down here to Jimmy Graham, another name who people kind of forget about. He caught on at the end of this past season here. Kind of had some up and down seasons, some injury riddled seasons. Since he's left New Orleans. Where do you believe he ends up, and where do you think is the best fit?
I have a weird one here, weird on the surface in terms of when we're talking about the first segment of fantasy and free agency, and I'm going to go with him going to be a backup. But this screams Patriots to me. It just does. I mean, you saw it with Martellus Bennett, then you saw it with Dwayne Allen. They're obsessed with that second tight end.
He's a little better option.
Yeah, being a starting caliber guy, they go 2 tight ends a lot. Now they've done it less because, frankly, Dwayne Allen was terrible. But they were doing it with Martellus Bennett when he was healthy, and I just feels like that's the situation where they can pitch to him, hey, you're playing with Tom, and we can extend your career a little bit because you're not going to be relied on constantly. I don't know Jimmy Graham enough to know what his ego is going to say to that. But for me, if he views himself still as a stud and a superstar, then no, this isn't going to happen. But if he can listen to reason and say, hey, come in with our 2 tight end sets, be the starter for the 3 games that Gronk inevitably misses, play with Tom Brady, play for Bill Belichick. Jimmy Graham just screams Pats to me. Now that's kind of what I think's the where he's going to go. Best fit, go back to New Orleans. I mean, and I won't be shocked if that happens, but that's the only thing that offense is missing right now. Kobe Fleener was supposed to fill in for Jimmy Graham, and then he was terrible. So going back to an offense where you know the scheme, you know the quarterback, you can open things up for Michael Thomas, who's incredible, and the running backs who are awesome. I say Saints or Pats, either way for me.
I said the Saints too. I actually think he goes back there. It's when he was most productive. It's when Breeze was most productive. They don't need Breeze to be a 5,040 touchdown guy anymore with these running backs, but imagine how scary it would be to have that possibility. It makes Jimmy better. It makes Breeze better. It makes Michael Thomas better. And somehow I think it even makes these running backs better. So there's really no reason, unless he hates Sean Payton and wants that bridge burned.
Right.
And there's no reason for him not to go back to New Orleans.
It's honestly one of those things where if you're the Saints, you're saying, okay, we're already a nightmare from hell to defend.
Yep.
Let's just pick up Jimmy Graham. He's not going to demand that gigantic contract we thought he was before.
Right.
And now we can completely ignore offense in the draft. And the defense was good enough anyways. And now we can go crazy on defense in the draft because who in God's name is prepared to defend us?
And as crazy as it is, the Saints are more prepared to win a Super Bowl now than New England is with that team.
Yeah. Unless you just go back to the Kirk Cousins AFC versus NFC conversation.
Right.
That's the only way they're not the better team right now.
Right.
Yeah. Miles, I think that the Pats would want to do that. Obviously, and they want to do it because they never know if Gronk's going to be healthy for a whole 16. That's why I think they go after these tight ends. But I don't think. Yeah, I think the best fit and where he's going to wind up is New Orleans. I think it's a lock. I think he misses playing with Breeze. I think he misses, kind of trusting his. Not that you can't trust Wilson, but you can't trust anything else on the offense, and that makes your quarterback somewhat independable. You know what I mean? So undependable rather. I think he wants to go back to the continuity that he had with Breeze.
Yeah, I agree. It's the Saints for me all around. I just think, Miles, you hit the nail on the head. Not much more needs to be said. Like, that's really the only area they're really lacking at this point. So, it's a perfect fit like a glove kind of scenario for both sides. I think it'll end up happening. So I'm going with the Saints. All right, guys. So we touched on some of these, bigger names and kind of a little bit more fantasy relevant guys. And we'll take a little bit of a deeper dive here in just a minute. But we want to take a second to talk to you about our friends at Gorb. And now you're probably saying, man, these guys are always telling us about Gorb. I think it's probably just because they get free swag from Gorb and, they always are wearing it on the show, whatever. And while that might be like a fraction of a percent true for me, because I'm a shill for anything free, the reality of it is that I think why people like Gorb and why it's catching on as such a huge movement on social media is because it gives you that reminder that in life, you've got two choices. You could either get hungry or you can be hungry. And getting hungry is all about finding out what fuels you, what you're passionate about, and chasing after that and going for it and pursuing it. And being hungry is wishing that you would have done that and watching from the sidelines as everybody else meets their goals and expectations for themselves. Check them out at ghorbh.com. You can get the full scoop on everything there. Find out what everybody's going crazy about on social media. Find all kinds of great gear. You see we got some hoodies on tonight. They have t-shirts, all kinds of apparel, all kinds of accessories for guys, for gals, for the kids. They got you all covered, all kinds of styles, all kinds of sizes, all kinds of colors. Check it out, ghorbh.com. Get hungry or be hungry. All right, guys, let's go with a little bit more of a no huddle approach here. And I want to touch on two players. We were going to talk about them in the first segment, but we're going to make this a quicker one here. So Malcolm Butler, in like a 15 to 20 second, where do you see this shaking out for Malcolm Butler? Because he has such a huge fall from grace, at least in the public opinion right now.
This is a no-brainer to the Jets to me. The Jets cornerback situation is bad. He absolutely feels wronged by the Patriots, and I agree with him. I mean, the guy misses a meeting, and all of a sudden he's benched for the biggest game of the season, and they lose because they can't stop Nick Foles. But he wants to stick it to the Patriots. The Jets have the worst cornerbacks in the league and a ton of money. He's a Jet to me.
I was going to say Jets, but also throw in the dark horse of Buffalo. If he feels like he might have a better chance to win, he might decide to go to Buffalo. And still be able to stick it to the Patriots. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think ultimately he stays in the AFC East is my point.
Yep. Any of the three teams, really.
Yeah.
I picked him to go out. I picked him to go to the Texans. He's the kind of guy that's a good fit there. And ever since they lost AJ Bouye, they went from the number 2 passing defense to the number 24 passing defense. And they need a guy like Malcolm Butler. They need a shutdown corner, a speed guy, and he's a great fit in my mind there.
Yeah, I agree with Deal. I'm surprised I didn't think anybody else was going to have that team, but that was a huge loss for them, a huge liability last year on defense for them, and I think it's another perfect fit situation for him. Let's talk real quick here about Sheldon Richardson. Obviously going to have an opportunity to kind of go out here and see what's available to him along the defensive line. Has been a difference maker. Where do you believe that this shakes out for him?
This one I actually think even more so than Malcolm Butler. I think he's coming back to the Jets. I think it's going to be a 1-year prove it deal. Maybe a 1 year with an option for a second or 2 with an option for a third. It's not going to be a huge deal, but I think the Jets are going to admit that they made the wrong decision in giving Mo Wilkerson the money and not Richardson. And now they want to kind of fix that if they can. And I think pairing him back up with Leonard Williams on that front line going to be nasty again.
Yeah, it's funny. I have Jets too. And it's like we keep bringing up the team's name. Well, you got $90 million in cap. So we're talking about free agency. We're going to talk about the team with 90 mil. But for me, aside from what you said, it's a great pairing for them. Wilkerson's gone. Richardson isn't going to get quite the money that they kind of all assumed he was going to get. But on top of that, if I'm the Jets front office, that makes me look like a genius because I stole Seattle's 2nd-round pick to let them borrow him for 3/4 of a season, and then he came back. Like, I still have your 2nd-round pick and Sheldon Richardson now.
Yeah,
when I'm ready to try to win.
That's the kind of stuff we see in baseball all the time. Right. You don't really see it in football that much.
The rental player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the Browns could land him before they went and made all these moves and spent all this money and lost a bunch of cap space. Now I think it's the Browns for sure. They still have so much cap space, and they're proving they want to win now. They're trying to make a difference, and it's an attractive landing spot for a guy like Richardson because I don't think he goes back to the Jets because I think similar to Malcolm Butler, he feels wronged, and he should as well. So I think he goes to the Browns.
And they have that hole made by Danny Shelton now too on the D line, so there's an opportunity there.
Right.
Yeah. There's another team that recently just had a hole created on their defensive line, and a team who loves to make these kind of moves, a kind of shove it in your face. We'll show you the mistake of your way, especially to the Jets, and that's the Patriots. They've moved on from Alan Branch. Their defensive front has not been good. They need to do something there to kind of shore this up. And this is like the most Patriots move possible,
right? To
go and take a player from the Jets, who the Jets, probably picked the wrong guy to stay invested in. And, this is a Belichick move. It's got it written all over it. He's going to pick them up and plug them in. All right, quickly here, give me a free agent that we haven't talked about to this point that you believe would be a great fit for a specific team.
I don't know about financially or whatnot, but I spread the idea of putting Tyler Eifert healthy on the Oakland Raiders, helping them, helping them spread it out, making sure that Cooper and Crabtree both get to see single coverage because somebody's got to account for the tight end over the top. You know what I mean? I think that will open everything up. I think it allows them to then open up the running game. But I've already said this on record that I think they're going to go back to passing game first, running game second. Even with John Gruden, I think that's almost a given at this point. And I know guys like to play for John Gruden, so I think that's a plus for trying to get free agents to come there.
That's a good one, man. I hadn't thought of that. Basically, do what Jared Cook was supposed to do. I mean, we kind of all hoped he was going to fill that role, and then he didn't. So that's pretty cool. I was looking forward to this question because I figured we would have 4 very different views that the other ones hadn't really thought of. But South actually stepped on my toes in the intro. I'm going to talk about Andrew Norwell.
Go for it.
He's a guard.
Go to the Colts.
And one of the big issues I have with the Panthers is that they would rather franchise tag Graham Gano, or at least really focus on re-signing Graham Gano, than one of the 3 or 4 best guards in the league, which was a bold move. I didn't love it. So, but for me, Andrew Norwell, a lot of places, but I want to see him go to Cincinnati. We keep talking about in our mock drafts, on footballgoons.com, we've been releasing them, and really mock drafts across the interwebs. The Bengals need to boost their offensive line. Well, okay, great. Still draft a tackle, but let's secure the interior with Andrew Norwell. I want to see this team return to what they were just a few years ago with that crazy explosive offense, and building up the line is a way to let Joe Mixon take over the league, which I think he has the talent to do. Open things up for AJ Green, make good things happen. Maybe John Ross can get a catch this year. We'll see. He's still got the same career catches as I do. But I do like what they've built at the skill positions. I want to see Norwell go there and boost that line.
There's a legitimate chance that you have more catches in an NFL stadium than
I do. No, there's no legitimate chance. It's true. I have one.
Yes.
John Dorenbos threw me a pass, and I caught that bad boy. John Ross, you could take your 4.22. I'll take my reception.
I'm going with the Panthers here. We kind of touched on them a second ago. I think Isaiah Crowell is a good fit for them. He's a back who kind of fits the scheme there for them now. They've got a lot of playmaking backs, but they don't have your more traditional between the tackles kind of guy now. They let Jonathan Stewart walk. So I think Crowell is a good fit for them. They just traded for Torrey Smith, so they have a little bit more of a complement on the other side now from Devin Funchess. You still have Greg Olsen at tight end. So if you add Crowell to that offense, you're a little bit scarier than you were, even just a week ago. And you're not wondering, man, who's Cam going to go to? There's options then. So I think it's going to be a low risk, high reward kind of move, but it's just a perfect fit for them.
I actually picked Tremaine Johnson to the Colts. I think it's a great fit to tandem him with Hooker and Quincy Wilson and let him teach Quincy how to use his athleticism to be a good corner. And I think it's a good fit all around, tightens up the defense and helps with some, some veteran leadership with Wilson and with Hooker.
All right, so give me a player who's likely to move that's going to hurt their old team the most by leaving.
Can we say the Redskins with Kirk Cousins? Because that's, the obvious one. I didn't write that, but that is
we can all agree on that.
To go from Cousins to Alex Smith is redonkulous. But for me, we talked really good about Rocco's team and the Jets bringing in players, and we talked good about Deal's team with the Colts bringing in players. The Eagles are absolutely going to lose Nigel Bradham, and I think it really, really hurts the defense. It's there's still a great roster, but the weakest position group on the team, hands down, is linebacker. And, Jordan Hicks coming back, yeah, great, maybe. He hasn't stayed healthy for his career, so we hope he does. And Kendrick's kind of the same thing, but Nigel Bradham was the best linebacker on the team, probably the most underrated player on the team. And unless he wants to come back for a huge discount, they have no money. So he's going to leave. You better hope they can replace it in the draft, but they don't have a lot of picks. So we'll see. I don't like losing Nigel Bradham. I think he's going to go somewhere and take the confidence he built in Philly. He's a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker, and he's going to leave.
Kind of this similar situation, Miles, just a guy who's really solidified his position group for a team. I know the Patriots don't traditionally do this and pay for what they consider to be aging players, but your offensive line is shaky as it is, and now you're going to get rid of the hardest position on the offensive line to replace in Nate Solder. I'm not sure that he's still a top 10 left tackle in the league, but like very few teams have a left tackle that has started for them for the length of time that he has for the Patriots. It's like I said, it's already a shaky group, and now you're going to just let him walk and then try and replace the toughest offensive line position to replace. That's scary to me for a team that has to bounce back. Otherwise, they're going to be, in full rebuild mode in like a year.
Yeah, it's almost sometimes on O-line, and this sounds stupid to say, but sometimes that continuity is better than talent. And I mean, you can't say like 5 trash guys starting for 5 years is a good thing, but Nate Solder's not trash. Whether or not he's still top 10, he's definitely top 20, top 15. You don't want to lose a guy that on the offensive line where every year you see, hey, Team X had a great year. Oh, their whole O-line played all year.
Yep.
Like every year you see it. And then, Team Y is really struggling this year. And then it's like, here's the 48 combinations they've had at O-line this year. It happens all the time.
Yep.
So to lose a guy with, like you said, that kind of continuity is tough. It's tough to swallow.
Yeah, I went with Jimmy Graham here. And I think it's because, you're looking at what the Seahawks are doing over the last couple of days and you're thinking, man, they must be retooling. And that they're going to probably have some drop off on defense at this point. And then you look over on the offensive side of the ball, and for as hit or miss as they've been there, you're going to get rid of one of your most consistent items now. You really don't have a great running game. Your offensive line struggles. You've already asked your quarterback to do way more than basically any other quarterback in the league in a long time. And you're going to take probably his number 2 target on that team away from him and ask basically Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin alone to win you games this year. And that's going to hurt them a lot. They're not going to be able to do, at least on paper, a whole lot offensively. I think it's going to hurt them quite a bit.
I know we actually already talked about him, but I picked Allen Robinson. I think that this year the Jaguars would have been in the Super Bowl if they had him in the AFC Championship game.
No doubt.
It's a huge loss. Listen, I don't think Blake Bortles is the answer still there, but you can't make up for a player like Allen Robinson. In my mind, he's the number 4 or 5 receiver in the league as far as talent goes. And he's making a difference for Bortles and the whole team. They go to the Super Bowl with it. They are a much better than a 4-point better team with Allen Robinson. They're going to the Super Bowl and they can't replace him. Not with Allen Hurns, not in the draft, and not with a free agent. They can't replace Allen Robinson.
All right, let me ask this question for you guys here. We kind of touched on it quickly, but I just want to see, maybe a little bit more of an expanded answer. How much do you believe the depth of this running back draft class is going to hurt guys that are out there like Doug Martin, Isaiah Crowell, Dion Lewis, etc.? Some of these other names, even Jeremy Hill, who's a younger guy and is still available out there.
I love him.
Of course.
I'm going to quote one of my favorite movies here. I'm going to say strong to very strong. Honestly, like I'm looking at this list of guys that you put, and there's like 6 backs coming out in the draft that I'd rather have than any name on that list. Maybe 8 if we're really being honest with ourselves. Like every one of these guys is like a good complement guy. And you need that, and I understand that. But, like, what would you rather have? The compliment of Dion Lewis or the compliment of Sony Michel? Like,
but that's not the question.
It is the question because the depth of the running back class is going to delay all these guys getting deals, because people are like, well, if I have a choice between going out and looking at this draft class or trying to get one of these guys is still going to be available to me after the draft if I don't get my guy.
I think that's the key, though, Rock.
That's the exact argument that goes against
right.
it.
These guys have to be patient, and that's kind of what South's getting at. It kills the running back free agent class. It kills it. Like
that's what I'm saying.
No, I know, but like I don't think it kills the fact. Like all 4 of those guys are obviously going to be on rosters.
Oh yeah, they'll be on a roster.
But I think it kills the running back class, because why in the world am I drooling? I am on record and I won't back down. I love Isaiah Crowell. I think he's excellent. But if I'm a GM, I'm not drooling over Crowell. I want to see what happens. So why I kind of disagree with you for Lewis versus Sony. Well, I'm gonna have to take Sony at worst, like pick 40.
Right.
If I don't want to do that, then Dion Lewis all of a sudden is really attractive. But I guess for me, it's more of it hurts the class in a sense of, unless you're Carlos Hyde and even maybe him, I'm waiting till after April because I want to see if one of my picks comes up and I really like the value of a player there, or maybe I can still say, hey, Dion Lewis is sort of in our back pocket here. Let's not reach for so-and-so if we don't feel like we have to. So, my kind of joke when I first read this is 2 times in my Eagles fandom, I've gone through a coaching change and I wanted John Gruden so bad. And then when I hear John Gruden say they're going to aggressively go after Doug Martin as soon as free agency opens up, I'm so thankful we didn't get John Gruden. This running back class, that's a ridiculous statement. Like, Doug Martin's an okay back. He's got tools, but come on. You're going to aggressively go for Doug Martin when this running back class is like 17 deep, and I'm not being sarcastic. It's like 17 deep and guys who can really, really play.
They draft 10, and like Geis is going to be on the board. You rather have Doug Martin than Darius Geis?
Whatever. Like, but anyways, the point is these guys are going to have jobs, but I'll be surprised if 2 to 3 of them aren't still available May 1st. And then they get sopped up quickly before minicamp starts.
I don't know if you thought we weren't agreeing, because we are.
No, I think we are.
Okay, I was gonna say I think it hurts the class in the effect of none of these guys are going to get big contracts. I don't think
Hyde is the only one with the shot at it.
Yeah, and even that's an outside shot.
He's a special player.
It's an outside shot even still. Like, because right. If you're the Colts, like we're all in agreement that Hyde's main place might be, the Colts. I said Seattle, but I could see that he could wind up in Indianapolis. Even they're going to be like, well, let's see if Saquon falls to 3. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? And then we'll sign Carlos Hyde. Like,
but that's not to delay this one, but that's it. Like, if Carlos Hyde to me is probably 3rd in this draft class, I would take Geis and Barkley over Hyde. And if I'm the Colts, sure, I want Barkley. I'm not taking Geis at 3. So Hyde is really my number 2 player, if that makes sense. Because I know I'm not getting Geis at 34, 35 whenever they draft.
Yeah, I agree for the most part with you guys. I don't think it hurts them in the extent that none of these guys are Saquon or Geis or those guys. So I don't think it really has anything to do with the players that are being drafted, because these guys aren't as good as them and they're not going to go to those teams. But right. I do think that it hurts some of them. However, this league has turned so much in the direction of running back by committee that these guys are good options, kind of what you said in the beginning, for that position. I don't think really any of them at this point are lead backs, but they're excellent in a running back by committee, even as the lead back with a guy like Marlon Mack or a guy like that.
Or Crowell with Duke Johnson just showed it. He can do it with Duke Johnson as his number 2.
And I won't be surprised if 2 of these guys go to the same team and play that role together. There could be a situation where that happens, but I don't think it really hurts them that much, because they're going to go somewhere and they're going to fill the position that they should be in a running back by committee, not a lead back.
Yeah, I kind of only jumped at you a little bit because it sounded like initially you were making it sound like you had to pick either or. Right. So that's kind of where like my feathers went up a little bit there. And I do agree that obviously if you have to make your pick as a GM about who you want to be your guy for the next couple of years, I'm going through the draft. But that doesn't disqualify me from showing interest in a Jerick McKinnon in a complementary role, in a Dion Lewis in a complementary role and as a special teamer. You know what I mean? So like if I go and get one of these guys and sign them early, it doesn't eliminate me from drafting a more feature back anyway. So
it's just more of the money you're throwing at those guys.
Right.
McKinnon, I got to be his biggest fan in the world, but he's not getting $6 million a year.
Right. I think that the money is going to be impacted, and I think that the timing is going to be impacted. A lot of these guys are going to be waiting to see what happens. So waiting to see who has a bong hit video come out night one of the draft, basically. So, all right. Speaking of bong hits, well, only relevant to me because of who I'm going to talk about here. But give me one reasonable trade that you can see going down over the next few weeks. I'll jump right in because I said bong hits.
There you go.
I can reasonably see a big splash in the NFL happening where Odell Beckham Jr. is traded to the San Francisco 49ers. And look, on paper, you would think, man, the Giants would have to be crazy to do that. You know, they're trying to squeeze the last little bit of life out of Eli Manning. You know, they're trying to kind of retool here, and Beckham is young, and you've got all this opportunity in front of you. But the reality of it is that I'm not sure the Giants are the kind of team that is going to shell out the long-term money that it's going to eventually take to keep Odell Beckham Jr. in New York. So I think that's an obstacle. I think some of this off-the-field behavior stuff is going to start to really impact how the Giants, a typically very conservatively run, not from a political perspective, but you know, from a behavioral standpoint, are looking at Odell Beckham. And I really do still think they're going to take a quarterback in this draft and kind of really be retooling a lot quicker than we think. And what better way to do that than to bring back just an abundance of draft capital in moving Odell Beckham Jr. I really don't think would be a shock to me at all if we heard that he was going to be traded over the next couple of weeks, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if it was the 49ers.
Now, real quick, would you say they sign Allen Robinson? Are they still in the Odell trade market?
Why not?
That's it. It's kind of the perfect answer, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
You know, if you're willing to put up with some of the quote unquote antics, you know, why wouldn't you be? I mean, why wouldn't you want to have those two? And if you have the money to do it at this point, you know, go ahead and do it. It makes you an impact team right away.
Right
out of the gates. So
it gives you by far the best tandem wide receivers in the league. I don't care what anybody says, but I'm going to take like a kind of an easy answer because this player actually asked for this last year. And if you would have asked me last week, I would have probably said no. But after watching this team kind of dismantle, I'm going to say Earl Thomas to the Cowboys. I feel like Earl wants it. I feel like the Seahawks are kind of in a rebuild mode on defense as it is anyway, with you know the not re-signing Sheldon Richardson. They let Richard Sherman walk. You know, I just think this is kind of like a perfect fit. A guy who wants to be there. A team that needs him badly, obviously. The only question is going to be is whether or not the asking price is going to get met, you know. So, but I think eventually this is one deal that does get done.
I personally think Nick Foles is going. I mean, I not to be the guy that talks about my team or whatever, but it just makes too much sense from both sides. I mean, Foles is putting up a great front that he loves Philadelphia. And I don't think he's lying. That's not what I mean by that. You know, I mean, I think he's happy either way. But at the same time, look at what you just did through the postseason. Why would you not want to give being a starter one more shot? Especially with the fact that I think Philadelphia respects him enough to be like, hey, do you want to go to Team X? You know, they're not going to just shove him off on the Jeff Fisher Rams. And let's see what happens. So I think it makes too much sense for him to go to Arizona. Arizona, to me, is not Kirk Cousins. He's not going there. When you go past Kirk, the veteran quarterbacks, Nick Foles is absolutely number 2 on that list. And I don't think they necessarily have the draft capital to outbid the Broncos or Jets to go up to the Colts pick. Because I think that's where the draft changes, is number 3 with the Colts. Somebody's taking a quarterback there, and it's probably not the Colts. So you know, if I'm Indy, Denver and the Jets absolutely have more ammo than the Cardinals, because to move to 5 or 6 versus 15 is ridiculous, and what else the Cardinals are going to have to give me. So I think that they can't get up to that top 5. But if you're Philadelphia, I'm drooling over the thought of taking number 15 from Nick Foles. He's a backup to me. And on top of that, people say, what if Wentz isn't ready? I'm sorry, but that roster is absolutely good enough to be, a 3-1 ball club with even Nate Sudfeld at quarterback. It just is. The roster's ridiculous. You might have to win the games 10-7, but tell me they can't. So I mean, it just makes too much sense when you're talking about a Philadelphia team that only has 6 picks, only 1 in the first 2 days. And you're talking about you want to trade me possibly a first, if not definitely a 2 and a 3 for a backup player. You have to do that.
I picked the same guy. I picked Foles, but I picked him to go to Buffalo. And I picked them because they have 2 firsts and 2 seconds. I think they could very likely give up 21 or 22 and 53 or 56. And that is delicious to get a first and a second rounder. And it's obvious that Buffalo is not planning on just sticking around and see what Nate Peterman can do. So
we saw what Nate Peterman can do.
That was a bad
Chargers because he loves throwing the ball to the Chargers.
Yeah, it was a bad decision there to start him. You would think they're not going to do that again. They'd probably rather start Nick Foles. So I think they can give up a first and a second and still have a first and second.
I can't wait to see your guys' reaction when Harry Roseman takes 2 first-round picks, sprinkles his magic fairy dust on it, and somehow winds up with like Roquan Smith. Like I don't know what you guys are going to do, but you're going to be unbearable about it. I know that.
Oh yeah,
he absolutely made a deal with the devil, and I'm reaping the benefits because I don't have to go to hell, and my team is still really good. But I don't know. It just makes, like you said, deal. If it's Buffalo, if it's Arizona, I don't know, but it sounds ridiculous to say a first and a second for Nick Foles, but Tyrod Taylor just got a 3, and he got the best 3.
Yeah.
So I mean. Hey, how many Super Bowls Tyrod Taylor win? None. I mean, he's nowhere near the stratosphere as Nick Foles. It's not even close.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up there for this week's edition. Look, we kind of just scratched the surface on this. We're going to be following it closely all week long as this thing starts to really unfold. We're going to get into some legal tampering early in the week, and then Wednesday afternoon, we're expecting things are going to happen really quickly. We're not going to even be surprised if there's a lot of trade action as well. So keep it tuned to us on social media, facebook.com/footballgoons. On the Twitter, we are at footballgoons. And right here on our YouTube channel, you can always like our videos, comment, subscribe. We appreciate all of those actions here on the channel. Make sure you're keeping it locked into to footballgoons.com. We've got a ton of stuff going on the website. Every Wednesday, we've got a brand new mock draft hitting the site from a different goon each week. So we're just rotating that through every Thursday. A different perspective from a different goon each and every week. We appreciate your comments and your feedback on those as well. You can comment right on the articles on the site. And then on Fridays, we're breaking down right now for the next month or so, position by position, some of the players in the NFL draft for 2018. We just started with the quarterback position. We'll do the running backs, wide receivers, etc. We're giving you players that we're buying their stock on, players that we're selling their stock, and then some players that we believe are really underrated and that people need to start paying attention to. So when we're right at the end of the day, you can go back and say, hey, I saw that on footballgoons.com back in the day. I knew what was up. So make sure you keep it locked there. It's a busy off-season / beginning of the 2018 league year, and we are absolutely the place where it's all happening right now. So we look forward to hearing from you guys as the league year kicks up. We'll catch you guys next time.